Welcome back, this is Goku's son DBZ, and today is a very special video. This is going to be a video, some of the basic timeline and explain of some of the story arc for one of my all-time favorite game franchises. Maybe even my number one favorite franchise of all time. This is a video about Kingdom Hearts, in honor of now that we're just a few weeks away from the release finally of Kingdom Hearts 3 from Square Enix. Now, example first, I have always been a big fan of the Kingdom Hearts series, and pretty much always will be. So, with that said, and I hope you enjoy the music in the background from Birth by Sleep. First up, I'm going to explain somewhat the actual releases of the games and then the actual timeline of the games. But the games were released as this. Originally, of course, the original Kingdom Hearts. Then, the original version of Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories on the Nintendo, or rather the Game Boy Advance it would be released on. Then it would receive a little bit later on a remake for the PlayStation 2, which is the version I played. I've never tried the Advance game. With that said, then you would have release in succession, of course, games such as Kingdom Hearts 2. You would also then, not too long after that, have the release of a game called Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. And then we would get the release of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Then we would see the release of another game called Kingdom Hearts Recoded, of course for the DS, as was 358 over 2 days. And the most recent release, of course, was on the Nintendo 3DS, and that was Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, or 3D as it's nicknamed. Now, with that said, and then we would see releases, of course, on the PS3, PS4 remasters, getting 1.5 and then the release of 2.5. Then they would decide to combine those games to PS4, 1.5 and 2.5 together, and then would release a special called 2.8, which would be the original version of Dream Drop Distance, a cinematic movie. Whatever cover, I forget the exact name of it now. Been a while since I've seen the film. It's, yep, Kingdom Hearts X back cover, or just back cover, whatever. And also get a preview of the new game engine, of course, with Birth by Sleep 0.2, a fragmented passage, where you play basically a 2.5, 3 hour demo of the new KH engine with Aqua in the Realm of Darkness. And it's superb. I have most of the clips recorded on YouTube, except the last one because Square Enix for some reason blocked it to be recorded. But now we go into the actual story. I'll try to keep this as short as possible, under 20 minutes, which is going to be hard to do with the story of Kingdom Hearts. But I'll try. Timeline-wise, the very first Kingdom Hearts game was released, or rather timeline-wise, was Birth by Sleep. It was a prequel game, of course, released for originally the Nintendo 3DS. Nintendo 3DS, but the PlayStation Portable, PSP. Then would get HD treatment, of course, released on the PS3, and you would get the final mix or remix. And then, of course, on PS4 as well. But, with that said, and it follows these newer Keyblade wielders, which we did not know about previously in the franchise, since it takes place 10 years before the events of the original Kingdom Hearts game. And you would be introduced to individuals such as Master Xehanort, or however you want to pronounce his name. And also Master Erquus, or Ericus, however you want to pronounce it, but I prefer Master Ericus. And what's awesome one about the characters is also who they were voiced by. Master Xehanort was voiced by the late Leonard Nimoy, Spock, and of course, Master Ericus was voiced by Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill. Yep, believe it or not. And ways, it revolves around three Keyblade wielders in the names of course, Aqua, Vin, short for Ventus, and of course, Terra. Now, in the special test, final test between two of those wielders, Terra and Aqua, Terra would briefly give into the darkness, which obviously Xehanort noticed, and he decides to take advantage of because he sees potential in Terra. Why does he want Terra? To get more powerful, and yes, there's spoilers here. So if you don't want spoilers, don't watch this video. But he ends up deciding to make him one of his 13 beings or bodies of darkness, if you will, in order to create the ultimate Keyblade, which we are introduced to at the end of the events of course, Birth by Sleep. And Aqua is named the official Keyblade Master for passing and succeeding on the the Rite of Mastery. And also, we get introduced to another character, an evil half to Ventus, called Vanitas. And you end up having to face him multiple times throughout the game. One thing I like more specifically about this game, and why this is my #1 favorite Kingdom Hearts game of all time, I love the fact you have to beat the game with 3 separate characters. You have to be in with each of the 3. Each play statistically or style-wise too similar to other characters in the future, obviously, but Vin or Ventus plays a lot like, I guess you could say, Roxas slash Sora. Terra, on the other hand, goes more by speed, or rather not speed, but power attacks. More element-wise, Earth-type element attacks. And Aqua specializes in magic abilities, and by the way, if you do axles and stuff like, yeah, she is ridiculously good when it comes to dodging. And that's good for boss battles. Her cartwheels are great for boss battles to dodge attacks. And with that said, we get to see later on also the introduction of other future characters, such as in this game we get to meet for the first time Maleficent, Pete, many others. We even get a cool Final Fantasy cameo from Zack from Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, which is a great game. But then we get introduced to Yen Sid, of course, Master Yen Sid, and which talks about things, and we learn that obviously on in the game that Master Xehanort is truly evil, and he's been propping up Terra to in the end possess Terra, gain control of his body, and then he would become the Xehanort that we know in the future in the games. And then once in special secret final battle, which you have to do certain things to qualify and unlock the final battle, which is Aqua versus the new Master Xehanort, aka Ansem. And of course Radiant Gardens, which would become known as Hollow Bastion, which you learn also involve Kingdom Hearts 2 about this. Now, we move on, and for some reason the heart of Ventus, by the way, disappears. And then we obviously learn later on that will play out in the future as to why the nobody version of Sora looks identical to Ventus. There's a reason for why Roxas and Ventus look alike, and that's one of the reasons. Because Vin's heart ends up in Sora. As I said, spoilers. Kingdom Hearts 1, 10 years later, we are back to the Destiny Islands, of course, and we get introduced more so to the characters Sora, Riku, and Kairi, which want to leave that world, obviously. End up, of course, also we see Heartless for the first time. We also see this mystical shadows of these bosses, obviously, in the future in the game, watching things. And there's a group of these, like, heads of, obviously, the Heartless, such as Oogie Boogie, Jafar, Maleficent, and many others. Also, of course, Ursula and others. With that said, events play out, and then we see Riku ends up possessed by darkness and becomes Ansem, a new version of Ansem, which at the time Xehanort is not really around because he ends up defeated, and so his Heartless is created, which of course Xehanort's Heartless is Ansem. And obviously then has a nobody, and that nobody becomes the head over Organization 13 and the nobodies. And of course that is Xemnas. Now, with the events of Kingdom Hearts 1 over, we pick up in the events. Actually, two games are going on back to back right now, timeline wise. We have the events of Chain of Memories going on, where we end up seeing Sora and the others end up at Castle Oblivion, controlled by basically the organization. At the same time, and not too long really after that, the events 358 over 2 days will start, and that will end up, of course, creating Roxas. And you play with Roxas throughout that game, and you were doing stuff for the organization, at least up until about the end, of course, of the game. And then you end up facing off against other characters which you really know outside of that game. Characters which I get the feeling are going to be reappearing in Kingdom Hearts 3, like Xeon, the 14th member of the organization, which is technically just another part of Sora, just like Roxas. Now, with that said, of course, we also are introduced throughout these two specific games to other characters. Of course, all organization, like Xemnas, Xigbar, Axel, which of course was originally Lee. We have many others as well. And of course, we cannot forget other individuals, such as, of course, the introduction of Naminé, the nobody version of Kairi. And of course, let's not forget another individual, such as the true Ansem, Ansem the Wise, voiced by, of course, the late Sir Christopher Lee. But we get introduced to all these new worlds, and then, after all the events of these other games happen, we begin the 4-hour prologue to what is known as Kingdom Hearts 2. And yes, it's about 3.5, 4-hour prologue long, but I still enjoyed the story for what it was, and again, an idea of how the gameplay would be, obviously, for Kingdom Hearts 2, which is far superior to Kingdom Hearts 1 in gameplay aspect. However, overall in-game mechanics and elements, I feel still Birth by Sleep is the most superior out of the whole franchise so far, at least into the mechanics of the franchise. But with that said, Kingdom Hearts 3 would introduce, of course, Xemnas is the big baddie. We would also be introduced to other new characters and new Disney worlds, of course. There are a lot of people's favorites, such as, of course, the world of Lion King. We would be introduced again to return to fan favorites, such as, obviously, the Colosseum, though more on the underworld side with Hades. We would get a cameo from Auron from, of course, Final Fantasy X, and many other characters, other Final Fantasy characters. Then, of course, like at the end of the first game, you would have again a special boss battle with the insanely, ridiculously overpowered Sephiroth, which he still has the best theme music, in my opinion, of any boss character in the whole company of any games. But we end up learning a lot of sad truths in Kingdom Hearts 2. And many of those elements would then end up playing over to obviously, but also new things would happen, like the defeat of Organization 13 through the game. Well, almost everyone, and of course we would see the demise of basically Ansem and the demise of Xemnas. But with that said, as their defeat would revive the true original mastermind and evil of the Kingdom Hearts franchise, and that is Master Xehanort, would be revived, which is obvious in the events. But first, we have to go to the next game in the timeline, which is technically Recoded, which really isn't that important overall story arc, though there are elements that do play out, but it's mainly just has to do with a digital version of Sora and stuff. The importance of the game really isn't that important for the most part, so we'll skip over to the final one currently. Dream Drop Distance. We would discover, and Yensid would summon Sora and Riku for the Mark of Mastery test. They would be put into a dream state in the slumbering worlds. You would end up having some classic characters from certain worlds from the past come back, like Pinocchio, as well as other characters. Of course, you would also get to return to Trevor's Town, but introduced rather to Final Fantasy characters this time, we get introduced to characters from another beloved Square game called The World Ends With You on the Nintendo DS, and again, of course, a re-release version on the Switch. And anyways, we get introduced to these characters, which is cool. And in this game, there is no Unverse, which was the main bads of the first, well, the technically first timeline-wise Birth by Sleep. Then the Heartless throughout the games up until, obviously, the introduction in Kingdom Hearts 2 to the Nobodies. So we've had Unverse, we've had Nobodies, we've had Heartless. We get introduced in this game to new creatures called Dream Eaters, which you can pick up items throughout the games, get recipes and stuff, and synthesize and create your own sort of, I guess you could say, a Pokemon aspect in a lot of ways. And it was good actually how they incorporated the touch, like dual screens in the 3DS version, since I've played both versions of the game. But you can also do, there's a lot of sub stuff to do in the game. That's the thing, there's quite a bit of content for a handheld game in this game. But with that said, there are many great challenges, and you get to see towards the end of the game the new Organization 13. The 13 members of Darkness, which is Xehanort with a bunch of his other bodies he has possessed. Bodies such as, of course, a younger time-traveling Xehanort, which is the main antagonist of the game. You would also get to have fights towards the end of the game. With Riku, you would get to fight Ansem. With Sora, you get to fight and play against Xemnas, which is a lot of fun and really good boss fights, I will say, hands down. But with that said, and we finally get to see the end and a lot of stuff explained, and of course, the seven wielders of light as well, the seven princesses of light. So, and you need these all 20 elements, the 13 darkness and the 7 lights, to come together in order to create the X Blade, as I prefer to call it, or the Super Keyblade, whichever, but I'll call it the X Blade. Now, with that said, we see many other events play out and get introduced, of course, to new worlds, such as Three Musketeers world, which is actually a lot of fun. Also, the Grid, the return to the Tron universe, and Tron Legacy storyline, which is actually one of my, hands down, maybe my favorite or second favorite world in the game. Also, Fantasia World, which is a lot of fun, especially since I actually like classical music. Getting to hear the Nutcracker piece and stuff is fun. Great boss battles. That's the thing I will say about Dream Drop Distance. At least the battles are refreshing and newer. Not the biggest fan, but it is interesting. You can create a custom team with two Dream Eaters with yourself. Of course, in order to switch back and forth between Sora and Riku, they would introduce something called the drop system. Now, I've noticed some fellow YouTubers, for some reason, just keep playing until they drop, which is stupid because you can easily buy an item called Drop Me Knots. And you can use these Drop Me Knots in order to extend how long you're playing one specific character, so you can get farther in the game before you drop, build up your points, that way you can gain also certain special abilities doing that as well. And also unlock achievements doing that as well, if you're playing the remastered version of the game on PS4. But anyways, we get the big final showdown. We also, of course, have King Mickey makes an appearance. Donald and Goofy appear as well at the end of Dream Drop Distance. Then we would see the discussion and things, and then now we pick up in the demo of the new KH engine with Aqua in the Realm of Darkness. In this short but sweet, like 3-hour gameplay, which is a lot of fun, I might add. There's a lot of secrets, even in this little thing. Like, if you achieve in the second part of that game world, you end up with the different mirror worlds. If you can achieve these special little white gems, if you get all of them, you can unlock one special boss battle with a Juggernaut-sized Heartless. So that's why you want to always look for these little elements in the Kingdom Hearts games, because it will pay off. Even though it's a linear series, I don't think linear is a bad thing. That's one thing I've always liked about the Kingdom Hearts games. It gives you a reason and shows you linear can be a good thing. It's not always a bad thing. Same thing for the Fable franchise. But with that said, this is a little bit of basic, getting up to date, some of the basic info on Kingdom Hearts. If you're wanting a little bit more in depth on some of the details on these games, of course, you can watch my gameplays. Well, except for the original Kingdom Hearts, I have yet to actually record. So eventually I'll do that. But you can check out my gameplays here on my YouTube channel for Birth by Sleep, most of the Fragmented Passage, Dream Drop Distance, as well as Kingdom Hearts 2. Unfortunately, the two DS games never got ported, only the cinematics, which you can look here up on YouTube, or if you want just the basics, you can just watch all the cinematics of all the games. It's up to you how you want to play it. But also, fun fact, that little cinematic movie back cover actually takes place, from what I understand, about 100 years prior to the original Kingdom Hearts event. So about 90 years before the events of Birth by Sleep. So with that said, I'll get ready to cut this video, and I'll see everyone next time. And stay tuned. About a month from now, I will start recording and uploading gameplay for Kingdom Hearts 3. So stay tuned for that. I have some new gameplay starting up. Today, I will be finishing up the last Fable 3 gameplays. And stay tuned for some new gameplays coming your way.